Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivadikacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivadikacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kvantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Nadang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki by regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee. All that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 8th day of July, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 9 of the 7th canto being the Science of God, 9th chapter being Prahlad pacifies Lord Nrsingadev with prayers. Text number 51. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Varnitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradham Pranatam Prito Yatamanyur Abhashita. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Varnitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradam Pranatam Prito Yatamanyurabhasata. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Varnitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradam Pranitam Prito Yatamanyurabhasata. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Varnitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradam Pranatam Prito Yatamanyurabhasata. Go ahead. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Vanitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradam Pranatam Prito Yatamanyurabhasata. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Varnitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradam Pranatam Prito Yatamanyurabhasata. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Varnitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradam Pranatam Prito Yatamanyurabhasata. Shri Narada Huvacha Etavad Varnitaguno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha Prahradam Pranatam Prito Yatamanyurabhasata. Anyone online?
Shri Narada Uvacha
Shri Narada Huvacha
Etavad Varnitaguno
Etavad Varnitaguno
Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha
Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirgunaha
Prahradam Pranatam Prito
Prahradam Pranatam Prito
Yadamanyur Abhashata.
Yatamanyurabhasata. Okay, word by words. Shri Narada Uvacha. Shri Narada Muni said, Etavat, up to this. Varnita, described. Gunaha, transcendental qualities. Bhaktya, with devotion. Bhaktena, by the devotee. Prahlad Maharaj. Nirgunaha, the transcendental Lord. Prahradam, unto Prahlad Maharaj. Pranatam, who was surrendered at the lotus feet of the Lord. Pritaha, being pleased. Yatamanyuhu, controlling the anger. Abhashata, began to speak as follows. Translation. The great saint Narada said, thus Lord Nrsimhadev was pacified by the devotee Prahlad Maharaj with prayers offered from the transcendental platform. The Lord gave up his anger, and being very kind to Prahlad, who was offering prostrated obeisances, he spoke as follows. Purport. The word nirguna is important. The Mayavadi philosophers accept the absolute truth as nirguna or nirakar. The word nirguna refers to one who possesses no material qualities. The Lord, being full of spiritual qualities, gave up all his anger and spoke to Prahlad. All right, I'm going to read the next verse too. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prarada Badra Badram Te Pito Ham Te Surotama Vadam Vinishva Bimatam Kamapuro Smaham Nirnam. The Supreme Personality of God had said, my dear Prahlad, most gentle one, best of the family of the Asuras, all good fortune unto you. I am very much pleased with you. It is my pastime to fulfill the desires of all living beings, and therefore you may ask from me any benediction that you desire to be fulfilled. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Bhakta Vatsala, the Supreme Personality who is very much affectionate to his devotees. It is not very extraordinary that the Lord offered his devotee all benedictions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, in effect, I fulfill the desires of everyone. Since you are my devotee, whatever you want for yourself will naturally be given. But if you pray for anyone else, that prayer will also will be fulfilled. Close quote. Thus, if we approach the Supreme Lord or his devotee, or if we are blessed by a devotee, naturally we will automatically achieve the benedictions of the Supreme Lord. Yasya prasarad bhagavat prasaraha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says that if one pleases the Vaishnava spiritual master, all of one's desires will be fulfilled. Om jnana timirandasya jnananana shalakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, we have heard the prayers of Prahlad, his famous prayers. And I'm trying to think through those prayers and see if he really asked for anything in those prayers. And I can't really think of much. There is one prayer, though, I don't know if you remember this one, but this one is pretty famous. He says, Evam janam napatitam bhavavahi kupe kama bikama manayak papatan pasangad. Kritvat prasad sarashina bhagavan grihitam soham katam navisujeta vabritya sevam. So there he's saying that he's painting himself, evam janam napatitam, that I was fallen down in amongst all the demons and following their path, you know, in one material desire after another. Kama bikama manayak papatan prasangat. Because in prasanga, here's that word prasanga again, keeps coming up, intense, either intense desire or intense association, very close association. So he's saying, well, I had close association with these demons, so I was, he's saying this about himself. I was following in their footsteps, and I had all kinds of these material desires. But my spiritual master, Narada Muni, he imparted unto me his own transcendental qualities. And then he says, the last line, his mortal line, how could I ever give up the service of my spiritual master? So he's implying there that that's what he wants. That what he wants to have facility to continue doing that. But otherwise, I don't recall, I may be wrong, that he prayed for anything. Because remember we had these three qualities of prayers. One is the offer of obeisances. He certainly did that at the beginning. And then he glorified the Lord. But he's so humble that he didn't really ask for anything. But having been offered these benedictions, first of all, he complains. He says, "I am not a Vanik. I was born in the family of these demons, and naturally, I'm tempted to enjoy the senses. So please don't tempt me, Lord. I'm not a Vanik. I'm not doing business with you." Is the famous verse is coming up. But then he does ask for something. Does anyone know? He has two benedictions that he asked for. And one Prabhupada gives a hint in the purport here that if you ask any benediction on anyone else's behalf, that will also be fulfilled. So what's the first benediction he asked? Does anyone remember? Huh? No, that's the second one. It's a wonderful verse because it perfectly characterizes Prahlad Maharaj's attitude. No. This is in the next chapter, because we're almost at the end of chapter 9, it's text 7. Yadi dasasi me kaman vadang swang varadarshaba kamanam mridyasamroham bhavatas tu vrnevaram. O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there be no material desires. He's praying, he's desiring desirelessness. There was this verse that I share every so often, taught to me by Mahavishnu Maharaj, the elder, who was an incredible devotee. And he used to spend a lot of time here. And actually this grew out of an encounter I had with him in Vrindavan. I've recounted this before. This was before he was a sannyasi. He was an elder brahmachari. And I was an elder brahmachari. We were standing online in Vrindavan waiting for prasadam. And so, as I would do at that time, and I often do at this time, would you like to hear a nice shloka? And he said, yes. And he pulls out a pad. No one else, no one before or since has ever done that. What's the shloka? And I forget the verse I gave him. It's probably something from the Karnamrita. So then he gave me one, which I must have wrote it down, or he wrote it down at one point because I memorized it. And here's the verse he gave me. And it has something relative to this mood of Prahlad. He says, Deheshti mangsurudide matam cha jasva, jaya sutari cha sadhama matam vimuncha, pushyani sham jagadidham cha nabangatishtam, vairagya raga rasiko bhava bhakti nishtam. I put in a little poem. He says, don't love the body, just a bag of flesh and blood and bone. Give up your sense of ownership for wife and kids and home. At every moment, see that this world totters on destruction. Become detached and learn to love the Lord without obstruction. And I always say I never did justice to the last line, because the last line is Vairagya Raga Rasiko Bhava Bhakti Nishtam. So what's the alternative to the first three? Identifying with the body, getting tied up with the family and my kids, my house, my money, and all of that. Well, it kind of sets up in the third line, is that there's nothing secure here. I mean, right now is a perfect time to understand that. At any moment, there'll be some destruction, some climate catastrophe, or one of these crazy guys who has his finger on the button all over the world. So we'll throw a few of these nuclear weapons. It can happen anytime. Another pandemic. So, but the last line is Vairagya Raga. Become attached to detachment. That's exactly what he's showing. Okay, you want to give me a benediction? Then let me be detached from all material things. We can pray like that. Vairagya Raga. Have attachment for detachment. It's very nice. And but the only way to do it is by becoming a rasika. By learning and developing our taste for everything having to do with service to Krishna, beginning with the holy name. We can pray for attachment for the holy name. There's an ashtaka by Rupa Goswami, where it's one of these astakas like Shikshastika that was assembled from various verses that he wrote about the holy name, and you can tell because there's no ninth verse. Ninth verse is known as the Palashruti. Is that what the benefit of reading this Ashtaka? But he didn't write it as an Ashtaka. Anyway, so several of those verses there, one of them is this, he's praying for more attachment for the holy name. What could be a better? So he gives samples of holy names, not just, Agadamana Ishodanandano Nandasunu Kamalanayana Gopi Chandra Vrindavanendra Pranata Karuna Krishna Vityaneka Surupe Tvai Mamanatiruchai Vardatam Namadeha. This is this word Vardhanam, we should know from Govardhana. Vardhana means to nourish and grow nicely. So, Agadamana Yashodanandano Nandasuna Kamananayana Gopi Chandra Vrindavan Pranata Karuna Krishna Vityaneka Swarupe Tvai Mama Rataruchai Vardatam Namadeha. So Tvai Mama Rati, may my attachment to you, O holy name, grow more and more. This is the prayer. So he's giving samples. Agadamana, the killer of the Agasura demon. Yashodanandana, beloved son of Yashoda. Yashodanandana Nandasunu, son of Nanda. Nandasuna Kamalanayana, who can guess what that means? You know Sanskrit. Lotus eyes, Kamalanayana. Gopi Chandra, the moon that causes the gopis' eyes to, their hearts to soften. And Gopi Chandra, Vrindavanendra, the Lord of Vrindavan. Now I like this one, Pranata Karuna. You who are so compassionate and kind to those who bow down to you, sincerely. Pranata Karuna, and of course Krishna, because the name's Krishna. Aneka Surupe, Aneka means not just one, but many. You have many, many forms. Mama Rati, my attachment. Mama Rati Uchai, Tvai Mama Rati Uchai, Vardatam Namadeya. Please increase more and more, O holy name. He's addressing the holy name as a person. It's not different from Krishna. O holy name, let my attachment to you increase more and more. We can all pray like that. So these are the kind of prayers that you find in the writings of the Goswamis. They're praying so many times for more love for Radha and Krishna, They're Queen Kunti's praying that let my mind always be filled with thoughts of you, and let all my love be flow to you. Every morning in the greeting, I hope I'm not offending anyone, I'm not. The Govindan prayers are going on, but it's my one chance to really offer direct prayers, so I'm offering a series of prayers to the different deities appropriately. So the Radha Krishna, a beautiful prayer in the Utkalika Vallari. Utkalika Vallari means the creeper of desire. And Rupa Goswami is expressing his most ardent, inmost desires. Just like Raghunath Das Goswami in Vilap Kusumanjali. That's what that is. And there, the famous line that we should all know, Padadukka Dukki. Actually, it's not in there. It's describing Raghunath Das Goswami, written by Sanatana Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami wrote the Vilap Kusumanjali. But he has Paradukka Dukki. This is like perfect example or perfect characterization of Prahlad Maharaj. Unhappy to see the unhappiness of others. You see? The demons are just the opposite. Paradukka Sukhi. There's even a word in German. You know the word in German? It became famous during World War II. Who knows? Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude. Schaden means pain, Freude means joy. Taking joy in others' pain. And the whole government, a whole philosophy built on sadism. Horrible, So the saints are just the opposite. Padadukka Dukki. If you're miserable, I'm miserable. Right? This is Prahlad. He said, I'm fine. Hey, Naivod Vijay Padadaratya Vaitaranyas. Remember this? This is near the end of his prayer. It's very famous. He says, I'm not at all disturbed. Udvijay, this word comes up earlier. Padadaratya Vaitaranyas, because I've crossed over the very difficult to cross over Vaitarani River. Vaitarani River is the river between the material and the spiritual world. So we're on this side, but we want to go on the other side. And how do I cross over? I stay crossed over. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. By singing your glories of your Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta, my consciousness is immersed in an ocean of nectar. So I can do that anytime. We can also do that anytime. And that's what the characteristic of the great devotees. Always Right in the Bhagavad Gita. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha. Always chanting my glories, isn't it? That's the character of the Mahatma. So, Prahlad is the jewel of the Mahatmas, so he's always doing that. But he's also lamenting, because this is also characteristics of the great Mahatmas, that they're so compassionate. The tikshava karunika. They're tolerant of any. Who could be more tolerant than Prahlad? The crest jewel of tolerance. But at the same time, he's merciful. You see, he's compassionate. As soon as he got a chance, he delivered his friends and his classmates, right? And, it is the mood of the Sankirtan devotees, the great acharyas who sacrifice everything, risk their life, like Srila Prabhupada, and Jesus Christ, who gave his life. Prabhupada also said he is in that same mood, in order to give the gift of God consciousnata to others, because that is the only way that their misery can really be relieved. And so that's a characteristic. So, pranata karuna. You are so merciful to those who are surrendered to you. And of course, Krishna. He's giving these different names. And then, let my attachment be drawn to you more and more. So this is a benediction that is often asked for, and this prayers to the holy name, there's several of those that ask for that. So these are the kind of things that we can aspire for, to ask for from the Lord, because we know that anything material, that's better than nothing. Krishna says, Chaturvadabhajana Sukrita Orjana, there's Sukriti, but it's not bhakti. Our line of bhakti begins with Anyabhilashita Shunyam, being devoid of any other desire, other than the desire to serve Krishna favorably, to somehow please Krishna with our service. You see? And how do we know what pleases him? The spiritual master, the acharyas, the shastras. You see? And so we're the most fortunate. We're the most fortunate people on earth. Those who are taken to this line, which is, we heard about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What a wonderful acharya. But if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be sitting here. He revived, Chaitanya Vaishnavism, which had fallen, it had become, had a bad name because people were using, the excuse of Chaitanya Vaishnavism and the gopis and the Rata Leela to become debauched. This is the sahajiya. You know what sahajiya means? Who knows what the word sahajiya means? What is it? Yeah, very cheap, very easy. Well, this is what could be more cheap than this? We want to hear about these affairs, young boys and young girls. So we just, immerse our mind in that. And of course, since they're not actually surrendered or chanting properly, they're not getting free of material desires. So naturally, they awakens their material desires, they become debauched. And that was what Chaitanya Vaishnavism was. People thought. You can imagine, So Bhaktivinoda. He has incredible saga of his passage, coming to he came to it. Of course, he's an eternal Vaishnava, but it's a lesson. He had been very attracted by Christianity at one point. He was because he was being trained by the British, so he was exposed to all that. He got all into Western philosophers and this and that, But through good association, he became fascinated by when I read this incredible book by Rupa Vilas called The Seventh Goswami. Maharaj was referring to it in his presentation, and he describes how when Bhaktivinoda Thakur first encountered Chaitanya Vaishnavism, not in the CC, but just it's some genuine thing. But he said, he was shocked. How could religion be there to this immoral Krishna? He didn't. This is what it said that he was surprised, but he applied. Especially when he read the CC, he saw that this was the highest. This was the highest possible religion, and he became a great force for the restitution of Chaitanya Vaishnavism to its proper place in the pinnacle of dharmas. So we're very fortunate, we're all descendants. I mean, his son, of course he didn't initiate his son, but he was main acharya in our line. And he trained, he had all these children. Lalita Prasad was also a very strict Vaishnav, one of his other sons. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was the ray of Vishnu that he prayed for. You remember, one of the things, I need help. I can't do this alone. He didn't have an organization. So he recognized, when Bimala Prasad was born, that this was the help. And it's a wonderful story. Very inspiring to read the lives of our acharyas. We have the disappearance day, but there's so much. There's a book called Bhakti Ratnakara, which gives more details of many of these acharyas. And it's a way of associating with them, even at this, associating with them. They're directly giving us the benediction. So Prahlad Maharaj has offered his prayers, which should be studied again and again. And this one here, I'm just going to read this little purport. I'm sorry, I'm heading up, and someone's going to get this verse in a few days in the next chapter. But let there no be mentioned. And Prabhupada writes here, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to pray for benediction from the Lord. He said, now what's the first prayer that's obviously in line with this? Please let me have no material desires. Nadanam. Yeah. He lists all the things that he doesn't want. I don't want this, and this, right? Nadanam, sundarim, kavitam vajagadish kamaye, mama janmani shure, bhavata bhaktara hoitakitvaye. So the first thing that most people, pray for, there's a large contingent that goes to church, and they're praying for wealth. There's a whole corrupted theology called prosperity theology. They fill practically huge stadiums with people who are believing this. And then you have some charismatic up there who learned how to, speak smoothly and brainwash these people. And they think that you just have to plant a seed. And the seed is your contribution. And the larger it is, the quicker it'll fructify. And the people believe this, And I'm the proof of it. That's why I have my airplanes. I have 3 airplanes, and I have all these. It's just such a great. It's taking that, the sukriti, artati, and making it dushkriti. It becomes, it's such corruption. And so people fall for that, and it's supposedly curing people. Oh my God, it's horrible. So, but Lord said, nadanam. This shouldn't be our motive. No wealth, no followers, and then the sundarim. Now, this to let you know, there's often several ways of interpreting these verses. Prabhupada gave us the sundarim. Okay, that's obviously beautiful women, because that's something that people pray for. Beautiful wife. Or kavitam. Now, kavitam means skill at writing. You see, wisdom like that, good education. So, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has a whole book that is a commentary on the Shikshastika. And he sees sundarim as an adjective, which it can be, modifying kavitam. So beautiful, attractive ways of speaking, and influencing with Bhaktivinoda himself was good, that. And he developed that by education. So that, I don't want that. That's another opulence. Oh, Lord of the universe. So if you're Lord of the universe, you could certainly give me these things. I don't want. Nakamaye. Na kamaye. And then by saying Janmani Janmanishware, he's not asking for liberation. Bhavatad bhaktara hoitakitvahi. This famous word, ahoitaki. Now, ahoitaki means not without any motive. This is kind of weird. It's without any material motive. A motive is anything that impels you to do something, including pure love for Krishna. But ahoitaki, because hetu means cause, or motive, that we say ahoitaki, but it means without material motive. But I want your bhakti, your devotional service that's free of any material motive. And this comes up again and again. Ahoitaki apratiyata. This is the prerequisite in that second chapter, where it's saying this is what real dharma is. This is a good verse to memorize. Savai pungsang paro dharma, the supreme dharma. Sutta Goswami is answering the sages. Sabai Pung Sang. Now they ask, what is that Dharma that can be full satisfaction for the soul? If the Dharma is just, what is it? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, is Dharma for making money, then that's not going to bring full satisfaction for the soul, because no amount of material emolument can make you happy. It just makes you more conditioned, right? And then you get involved in Kama. And that's not, so that's the standard for things. Okay, if there's some Dharma to it, you're at least referring to the Vedas, you're not doing sinful things. But that's not going to help you go back to Godhead. What you really want is that Dharma that can bring full satisfaction for the soul, and that's what he's describing. Savai Pung Sam Paro Dharma. For all human beings, the supreme Dharma, Savai Pung Sam Paro Dharma, Yato Bhaktir Arhokshaje. That which can result or help you to develop, or if you will, revive your pure devotion to Arhokshaja. Now this is an interesting word. The language is so intricate that often when you're speaking about the first stages of bhakti, you'll find in the Bhagavatam that they use this name for Krishna. Because all it means is he is a transcendental Lord. It doesn't describe any Leela in Vrindavan or any anything Vishnu or form or anything. It's just a basic understanding of God as someone we cannot see or hear at this present moment, but we have faith that he exists, and we're going to pray to him and try to develop our bhakti for him. So obviously, if you're going to develop the bhakti, then you have to soon have a form, or at least a name, right? Because what is it? What that makes a person? Name, form, qualities, and activities, right? So nama, rupa, guna, lila, in that order, really. So the name, but with Krishna, every one of them is absolute. So if you just know the name Krishna, then everything else will be revealed if you chant it and hear it. You see, if you actually understand. So Adhokshade, but what's the qualification? Ahaitaki apratiyata. Ahaitaki, no material motive, and unbroken. That kind of devotional service can fully satisfy the self. So it's not so easy to get to that, completely motiveless, material motiveless, and unbroken. So, but the Dharma that can do that, and that's what we're trying to do, the Sanatana Dharma. This Dharma that we're following is bringing us to that point. And when you actually achieve that and you can fully surrender to Krishna, then you don't need Dharma anymore. Right? That's it. Sarva Dharma Parityajya. Because you give up all Dharmas, Just surrender unto me. If you do that, then everything will come naturally. But that's not so easy to come to that point. But that's the idea. So as I mentioned last night, the Dharma is what differentiates human beings from animals. If you're leading a completely adharmic life, a sinful life, then you're on the animal platform, and you're headed toward an actual animal life. So we want, knowing this, we want to leave that behind, which we've done by practicing Krishna consciousness, and perfect our lives through developing our bhakti by the process of devotional service. So that's Prahlad is a perfect exemplar of that. He's so absorbed in thought of Krishna, which is really the sine qua non of the practice, to always be thinking of Krishna, chanting his name, remembering him, speaking about him, writing about him, serving, cooking for him, sleeping for him. That's what we're trying to aim to. And Prahlad is such a wonderful example of that. And he has such a big heart. He wants to stay, and he wants to help all of these fools and rascals who are trying to get Maya Sukhaya, illusory happiness. Right, Sureshwar? He agrees. Okay, confirmed. All right, say 30. Any questions, comments? We've completed the chapter, almost completed the chapter of the prayers. I think 1 or 2 verses left.
No.
Haribol.
I have a question, just clarification. So in the commentaries, and we all hear that, it is mentioned that if we are blessed by a devotee, naturally we will automatically achieve the benediction of the Supreme Lord. So we just need to please our spiritual master. and that way we can
That's the practical steps that we can take. Yes.
So does that mean that if we just once please the spiritual master, or because sometimes the relationship might become a little distant or misplease our spiritual, does that mean we just once please the spiritual master, or maintain the relationship on a certain level? What does that mean?
Yeah, you have to be steady in that pleasing mood. That's the apratiyata part, right? The hoitiki apratiyata. So the unbroken part is where it becomes yoga. You're always linked. You're in samadhi, means that your meditation is unbroken, and to think about that, how that can be, at every moment, even sleeping. Prabhupada, how many times did he say 24 hours a day? Chant Hare Krishna. 24 hours a day, always remember Krishna. So it's the development to that point of unbroken remembrance and unbroken service, and always being in that service mood. That's pure devotion. Annabilashada shunyam. Shunya means totally void of any other desire all the time. So it sounds inconceivable, but that's what it takes. Because that's what you can't do. You can't be breaking in the spiritual world. That's why we're here. We broke. We broke that desire. Now we came here. So we have to get back to the point of unbroken remembrance and being in the service mood. Sometimes the service is just taking rest. That could be an important service. The service take prasada. The service is to be in that. I met this wonderful guest last night. Did you ever speak to Diego? Yeah. Because here's this fellow. I seen him in the kirtans, and he was just enjoying the chanting so much. You can see he's having a great time, but he doesn't have tilak. He's really not. Who is this guy? So he actually approached me. He wanted to ask me a question, so we sat out there for a while, and he's not married. I think he's divorced or something. I don't think he ever had any kids. But he's and he's discovered. I think he has some books and he's reading, and he comes. And hopefully, he'll stay in touch. And so, but someone in that situation, because it reminds me when I first came, you can't attain. You're in rap. You have to work. You're involved in so many things. It's hard to keep it all the time. But you're still experiencing, because of good fortune, previous life, whatever, the nectar of Krishna consciousness, especially chanting. He was telling me, and this reminded me, because I used to practice meditation, silent meditation on the holy name. I had invented a whole system. It's surprising, because then I saw in a purport that Prabhupada said, this is a bona fide system of meditation, of just watching your breath, and on the in-breath, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And on the out-breath, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. All inside my mind. Reading, I can visualize it. That was my means. And I was, then I had to go to work, so I couldn't do it very long, maybe 15 minutes, But I felt such a wonderful vibe from that, It just brought me peace and joy. I had a picture of Krishna that I bought, and it was very nice. And I would try to continue it at work, because I had a job where I was alone a lot of the times on floors, looking at the patients, checking them, and I tried to always be. Try to project in the holy name to cure them, I didn't know what I was doing. But the point was the holy name that I was appreciating, and that made me very curious to find out more, come to the temple, read the books like that, And he's in that position. And you can see how much he just loves the kirtan. It's unusual to someone who's not really, so experienced. So that sense, it's not a one-time thing. But the way I understand it is like, well, if you just like if you hear the name one time. This is in the pastime of Chitraketu, and he has these prayers. I think when he finally gets the darshan of Sankarshan, and he offers these prayers, and this one of the few verses I've ever encountered where I cannot figure out the meter. It's just, but it's some kind of meter. But there's one say it's very surprising, because how many times have we heard just chanting one name, you can get in liberation, you get rid of millions of births. So this says hearing one name. which is like, okay, you go out on Harinam, somebody goes by, and they hear the holy name, or they may stop and not chant, but hear the holy name, or they may actually chant. And so, how powerful and how fortunate we are to be, have been blessed with that, to be able to. But we want to take it from just getting free from our bad karma to the point of never wanting to stop chanting. To be able to relish it like Rupa Goswami, Tunde Tanda Vanidati. How much nectar have these two syllables Krishna produced? They seem to dance within my mouth. I want to have millions of mouths. When they enter my ears, I want to have millions of ears. And when they enter the courtyard of the heart, all the senses become inert. And he's revealing what he's experiencing. Well, okay, we can aspire for that. So that's the plane in which all the benedictions are given. They're there. Nothing. Not yet. Yes.
I have a few. I just asked. I guess the first one: can a relationship of anger be the primary relationship with the Lord?
It can, but I don't think we want to go there. But yeah, that's one of these 12, and it can be there. I don't know how much of that there is in Goloka Vrindavan. But definitely there's individuals who are in that relationship.
And then one more is, you mentioned that once you achieve prema, you give up dharma. But if somebody's performing dharma for their own purposes, not for offering it to the Lord, and for their own selfish acts, do they eventually go to hell, or what kind of results do they get? But
well, you have to define what dharma is, And in dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that formulation, which is famous, there's nothing really devotional in there per se. Because the dharma, good dharma, what is that dharma? It's following the karma kanda section of the Vedas. That's also dharma, you see? Karma kanda means, okay, I'm going to perform this ritual and I'm going to sacrifice and hire these Brahmins, and then eventually I'll go to heaven, That's the result. Or I'll become very rich in this world, that artha, And with that artha, I'll be set free. I'll be all set up, all the karma I want, Now, supposedly, if you've been exposed to the Vedas, you won't become completely sinful. You'll just, maybe you'll build a temple and like that, but you'll still be attached to your money. That's the thing. The detachment is there. And then I said, okay, enough of all this stuff. Let me get moksha. But we know that moksha is not really desired by the greatest devotees. Lord Chaitanya taught us, Janmani Janmani Ishvare. And indeed, Prabhupada famously quotes Sridhar Swami in his commentary in the very first verse, the second verse of the Bhagavatam. Who can say what the first line is? Second verse, Bhagavatam. Starts with Dharma. Dharmak projita. Dharmak projita kaita votra padamoni ratsamanam satam vedyam. Yeah, so this says in this book, you see the word is a wonderful set of lectures by Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu on the first few verses of the Bhagavatam, which I can share with you. But he points out that in this verse the word atra appears 4 times or something. It means here in the Bhagavatam, this is such. So dharma projita kaitavotra atra. So that's the first statement. In the Bhagavatam, all cheating religions are kicked out. Cheating dharmas. In other words, dharma itself can also be corrupted. So-called prosperity religion, whatever they call it. So that's a complete corruption. Although it seems to be dharma, it really is something material, completely material. So he says the desire for liberation of yourself, there's nothing spiritual about it. It's in the same category of just, getting an air conditioning and putting it on. Trying to negate the pains of the material world. So what are the greatest pains? Birth, old age, disease, and death. So I'll become free. And that's what Prahlad, he criticizes in that first line of the next verse. Prayena deva munayo swava mukti kama. You see that? Swava mukti kama. Just wanting your own mukti is a form of kama. You're not going to be liberated. It's kind of self-contradictory. So, how did we go there? Oh, your question was? Yeah, yeah. That does not produce liberation. That. Oh, to go to hell? No, unless you degrade into grossly sinful activities. If you keep following the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, then you're not going to hell. But you go to heaven, come back. Go to heaven, come back. You know, if you're successful, you go to heaven. But Krishna says, what is it? Savai Svargalokam Vishalam Chine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. That you will, okay, if you do it right, you'll go to heaven, and 10,000 years or more, you'll enjoy godly delights. I got it made. But then your punya is used up, and down you come to the world of birth and death. Martya lokam, you see? You didn't really go anywhere. Gadagatam. You wasted time. You know? You could have been practicing, you could have been chanting Hare Krishna in the Hare Krishna temple. So that's the point, is that there are pitfalls even in the Vedic culture. You get hung up on karma kanda and the heavenly delights and all these different things. And that's why the Bhagavatam condemns that all the time. And you know, who is Indra? Indra's like a foil. You know, Indra's a devotee after all, but he has a tendency to become completely materialistic. And it becomes blinded by that. Just like it says in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita. You get blinded by lust or anger, you know, and you lose your intelligence. So then he has to beg for forgiveness from Krishna, right? Sorry. So we don't want to be in that situation. We don't get tempted by the godly delights. Who cares, right? Nadanang, najanang, nasundarim kavidam. You know, what do we want bhakti. Because if you really taste the pure bhakti to Krishna, then that obliterates all these other desires. You know, Swamin Kritatosmi Vadangniyachi. Even Dhruva, he was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, 6 months, and he saw Vishnu. But when he saw Vishnu, who cares about the kingdom? You know, Swamin Kritatosmi. But he still, you know, how many 30,000 years he was the king, but then he went back. So you're not going to go to hell unless you're in Kali Yuga, and you lose your train, and you get, by bad association, you start performing all kinds of sinful activities. It's a great danger. This is a very dangerous age. But this boat, probably would call it a boat of ISKCON, you know, if going across the ocean of birth and death. And if we stay on the boat by not doing any nonsense and being strict and trying to advance, then we're very all auspicious. May not go back to God in one life, but hey, it's been billions of lives, so just maybe 2 lives, 3 lives, you're going back. So, Hare Krishna. Okay, we have time maybe for one more.
Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question according to this, what you speak now, that how to explain to new people what is Bhakti. Because of, maybe I'm wrong, but sometimes I not felt to speak about that Bhakti, for new people, that Bhakti is a process how to please Krishna.
Yeah.
Maybe how we should speak something, how to say, preliminarily some stage, or but how to explain what is it. What we are doing, for example, what we when Harinam and people's what are
you doing?
Yeah, yes. If we try to explain deeply, sometimes it's no time.
They're not ready to understand most of the philosophy.
Mostly not understandable, for people.
Well, Prabhupada would, and Krishna, in the first parts of the Bhagavad Gita, the first basic understanding that needs to be infused is that it's a big mistake and self-defeating to simply identify yourself with the body and try to, even the subtle body, with the mind, and that my life is dedicated to getting comforts and pleasures for those two things. In other words, that's such a common thing. It's a given. And if I can make some money, then I can get a good apartment and I'll live and I'll have a girlfriend or a wife, like that. So this is a very dangerous position for the soul. So the first thing is you really do emphasize the need for liberation, for getting free from birth and death. And that if you simply get involved in the ordinary life, then you're headed toward a very painful situation. Because inevitably in this crazy society, you're going to be performing great grievous sins, you know? And you can explain how even a little involvement in Krishna consciousness protects you from that. In other words, can negate a lot of the results of your previous sins, like meat eating and so forth. So Prabhupada would speak about that all the time, about how, you know, you're not the body, you're a spirit soul, and that spirit soul is capable of great joy and happiness. But when identifying with the body, then he identifies with, and eventually, obviously in the body there's so many aches and pains and dangers and ultimately old age and death. And so it's not a good investment. In other words, it's a mistake. And also the idea that it's a very dangerous path. You'll lose the human form of life if you simply act according to your own whims in modern society. The Krishna consciousness gives you a path out of that, and even just, you know, a little involvement will protect you from so many pains and suffering from sinful reactions. The idea of transmigration and the law of karma, these are very important to kind of sober people up and get them to even be interested in investigating the process. And then, but you know, the chanting is kind of independent of that at first. In other words, this is what we do, this is how we meditate, please join us. And it acts automatically. You know, it's not the complete power because the mind is not completely on it, you're not chanting purely, but it has such power that you can get drawn into it. And even without knowing, I knew hardly anything about it. I just knew the mantra. And I was feeling so much peace and joy, if you want to put it that way, that I wanted to investigate further. And then if you really investigate, oh, this is why this mantra is so powerful. So for beginners, it's always, you know, a basic thing how, you know, don't worry about it. You know, it's just what we do. If people would join in, then there's a lot of, like, you know, trickery a little bit. But it's also important, you know, and I'm not going to belabor this point, to really arrange somehow to have dynamite prasadam on, you know, on Sunday, so that people are impressed and they'll come back. Because even if they come back for that, they'll hear the mantra, they'll hear the talk, you know, maybe they'll buy a book with a higher taste, and I'll learn how to cook it, you know. So that this is how Prabhupada started the movement. Chanting, you know, and feasting. And hear a little philosophy, you know, and you come in. But you're not going to describe the hells in the fifth canto, you know. But just taking birth again as an animal is a kind of hellish punishment. You know, that we have to, that the human, don't waste the human form of life. It's a great gift. That's a very central theme. And if people, you know, are willing to read, then they'll get the best thing in the Prabhupada association, and hopefully it'll change. So it's always begins like Krishna did, the body, the soul versus the body, and how you can, you know, improve your situation by practicing bhakti yoga like that. And then, you know, and just look, my students, you know, they were miserable hippies, from hippies to happy, you know, they used that so many times, hippies to happies. We became, I wasn't a hippie, but I know the people became hippie in order to become happy, but eventually the drug changed from LSD to amphetamines, and it was like a whole, you know, became hellish. It was always hellish. All right, it's getting late. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bo. Baxter, you're invited if you can make it tonight. Yeah, another class, 7:15. Sure.